Hey guys, I'm back with a new video. In this video, let us talk about the div element. So what is a div element? You can think of the div element as a container that is used to group elements together and is most often used to style the elements that we group. Now these kind of containers are used quite a lot in web pages. Now if we head over to instagram.com, and here if you see the image grid, this image grid is itself contained in some invisible wrapper, or you can say the container element, which could be a div element. Now in HTML, we have a few container elements, but the one that we will be seeing most frequently is the division element, or in short, the div element. And this is the topic for this video. So let us quickly give this a preview in the browser to see what we get. Now here you can see the image is too huge and is flowing right outside our div container. So let us style this a bit. Head over to the head element and add a style element there. So right here, let us add the style element. And let us add a couple of styles there just to make it a bit better. Now as a side note, here we don't see the div, but only the elements that are contained within it, right? Now there is one thing I want to demonstrate about the div elements. So for that, let us quickly add a basic style for the div element right at the top. So here let us say div and specify a CSS rule for it, background color, and set this to maroon and set the width to 300 pixels. Let us target the image, give this a width of 200 pixels, a height of 200 pixels, an object fit property, and set this to center. Now let us give this a preview in the browser to see how it looks. And this is what we get. Let me inspect this. And if we go to the elements tab, we can see that the div element is taking the entire width of the page, despite having very little content, right? Now what is the reason behind this? The reason for this is that div element is a block level element. Now what are block level elements? Block level elements are those elements that always start on a new line and they take up the entire width of the page. Next, we also have a container element that you will see being used quite often. So let us discuss that as well before we wrap up with this video, and it is the span element, which is often used for styling text. And let me show you an example. So right down here below the div element, let us add a paragraph element and say lorem 30. And let us add a span tag around these words. So let me grab them up and put the words in between the span tags. And now let us go right above at the top and add a style for the span element. So here let us say span and set the background color to green. Let us select a little lighter shade. Okay, so this one. So let us give this a preview in the browser to see how it looks. So you can see this gives a background color to the span element, which is this one. But what if in place of this span we had a div? Then in that case what would have happened is that the text wrapped around the div would have started with a new line. So let me demonstrate this. Let us go back to Visual Studio Code and change this span to div. Let us give this a preview, and here you can see the div element that is wrapping this text takes up the entire width of the page. So it starts on a new line, right? So here what is happening is that the text that is wrapped around this div is starting with a new line and takes up the entire width of the page, tossing the content that is right after the div to the next line. And this is what we don't want. So that is why we use span here instead of the div element. And now let us revert back and see what we get. So this is why we use span here instead of div. Now contrary to the div, which is a block level element, span is an inline element, which means that it doesn't take the entire width of the page. So this was all I wanted to cover about divs and spans in this video. If you liked the video, do give it a thumbs up or comment down below if you have any query. Don't forget to subscribe to the channel, and let's catch up in the very next one.